Democrats have been stepping up their criticism of the federal government over all of this, accusing the Trump administration of trying to, quote, cover up the incident with a rush to judgment. Here's one of them.
I think what we are seeing here is the federal government, Kristi Noem, Vice President Vance, Donald Trump, attempting to cover up what happened here in the Twin Cities. And I don't think that people here and around the country are believing it. You can see everything that they are doing is trying to shape the narrative to say what happened without any investigation.
The pot and the kettle would like a word. Okay. The White House responding with a fiery statement of its own. Quote, Democrats constantly rush to take the side of criminals over law enforcement officers. Tina's lies only serve to further inflame tensions and incite violence against law enforcement officers. Still, Democrats continuing their campaign against immigration, customs, and enforcement, with one prominent figure in the party calling for the removal of 2 DHS leaders.
ICE and CBP are breaking their own protocols. I have said that the president is not following the law, why Kristi Noem needs to resign or be impeached, and why Tricia McLaughlin should not have the job that she has. She's a pathological liar.
He spoke her name. He called her out. Tricia McLaughlin is the DHS Assistant Secretary with us today. Welcome to the program. What is your response to the Illinois Governor, J.B. Pritzker, there?
Harris, this is a serious moment for the country, and we need serious leaders. It's a shame that a sitting governor goes after character attacks and defamatory statements instead of sticking to the facts, which is exactly what President Trump and Secretary Noem have done. This administration has operated with ultimate transparency across the board, but particularly with this situation at hand, Harris. From the very beginning, we talked to our law enforcement officers on the ground, and we gave the American people transparency. We've given a bunch of video and other evidence about the facts that happened on the ground, and they've all corroborated what we've said since hour 2, which is that this individual was stalking and harassing our law enforcement officers for hours that day. She was impeding lawful operations. And then when our officers approached her, giving her commands to stop interfering with operations, to exit the car as she was about to be arrested, that is when she not only didn't comply with those lawful orders, but she also put her foot on the gas. And that's when our officer, he followed his training. He was in fear for his life. He was in fear for the law enforcement officers around his lives. And that's when he followed his training. And this situation turned deadly.
Well, Assistant Secretary McLaughlin, we have some of that video now, and I want to watch it with you. It is Renee Good honking and more. Let's watch together. So here's the SUV down in the center of your screen now. So this was many minutes before, Assistant Secretary. And what's troubling about this is you can physically see, this is a balcony shot, this video, you can physically see her blocking the operation that the Department of Homeland Security was on a mission to complete. I mean, they were picking up bad, illegal alien criminals in this country. Your thoughts and what you see in this video?
Well, Harris, I think this is one video, and we'll have more and more that come out. We want to give the American people as much transparency as we can. We've given them the facts, and we'll continue to do that. And, you know, Secretary Noem and President Trump have led with the facts, and they've led with a very measured response. I hope we can start to see that from J.B. Pritzker. We can start to see that from Governor Walz. I won't hold my breath. But let's take back a second, and talk about why our officers are on the ground in the first place in Minneapolis. We've seen rampant fraud there. That's why we've surged Homeland Security investigators there. About $9 billion in fraud, but we think that's just the tip of the iceberg. And hopefully in the next coming weeks, we're going to have more information for the American people on what we've seen with that. But we've also seen a massive amount of immigration fraud and criminal illegal aliens who reign with terror around Minnesota. And Tim Walz, unfortunately, will not do anything about it. Your viewers may have seen the criminal illegal alien list that we released this week. We're talking about pedophiles, murderers, kidnappers, really horrendous individuals who post pose a public safety threat to Minnesotans. And so what really should be happening is our state and local leaders should be working hand in glove with our ICE law enforcement agents. When our ICE law enforcement agents are facing these kind of protests, these kind of riots that turn violent, they should have the backing of local law enforcement to prevent these kind of situations from turning dangerous or, in this case, deadly.
100% they should have that. And in the interim, I understand you're sending in hundreds, if not thousands, of reinforcement behind them. We know Border Patrol has been there since this incident occurred last Wednesday. But look, you mentioned the worst of the worst illegal aliens arrested by ICE in the state of Minnesota. We have some of their pictures up right now. The camera may zoom in again. This is along a huge wall in our studio. So you can see a lot of detail there. These are some of the people convicted of violent sex assault on minors as the first person, and it goes on. Look, talk to me about that reinforcement coming in and the total mission. You also, I would think, Assistant Secretary, need people on the ground to help you with information. Are they being deterred?
Well, we won't be deterred. The president was given a mandate when he was elected, and the American people want safety and security. Governor Walz, since he became governor, homicides have been up 50%. There's a revolving door of justice in Minnesota, and President Trump isn't going to sit idly by as Americans are in danger and public safety threats walk around with impunity. So we will continue to carry out operations. So far, there has been 2,000 criminal illegal aliens, some of which your viewers just saw on their screen. Those individuals have been arrested and no longer poses public safety threat to Americans. But of course, because our ICE officers and our CBP officers are seeing highly coordinated campaign of violence against them, they still need to be able to carry out those operations. And because local law enforcement have been ordered not to come to their aid when they're called, we do have to send those federal reinforcements so that we can continue with these operations and make sure that people and our law enforcement are safe.
I'm still looking at this video. I mean, law enforcement and federal agents, and I looked up the definition. I know I've heard some Democrats arguing today, well, they're not real law enforcement. Oh, they are by definition. They're at the top. But how can they get their jobs done when they also have to protect citizens from some of the craziness that goes on? Look, they can protest, but they can't impede. They can't block a mission. They can't block a federal mission to go get people who are not legally supposed to be here. My last question for you, you saw Governor Pritzker. What does he have to do with the state of Minnesota? I mean, are these governors banding together now?
It sure looks like they are. I also think this is a question for CNN and why they're having J.B. Pritzker come in and talk about what's happening in Minneapolis, where he doesn't have the information that DHS
or the authority.
Or those on the ground have. Exactly. That was stunning. But I do want to talk also about what's happening to our law enforcement. Just last week alone, we saw 10 vehicle rammings. That's the weaponization of a vehicle, a deadly weapon against our law enforcement. We're seeing that's becoming a more and more common tactic that is being used against our law enforcement. They're facing a 1,000% increase in assaults against them. If you see a federal law enforcement officer or any law enforcement officer today, say thank you.
Amen to that. I don't have anybody in my life who wouldn't listen to a cop. I mean, I guess it's a thing now. I'm glad that we could have you on for your first reaction. Grateful for that. You say nothing will deter you, and certainly not Pritzker. Good to see you. Thank you.
Thank you, Harris. Good to see you.
Hey, it's Will Cain. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News channel on YouTube. It's the best way to get our latest interviews and highlights. And click to subscribe to the Will Cain podcast for full episodes right now.